Let us look into the demerits of international trade. First point, vulnerable position during wars. Trade promotes dependence. A country which depends on the imports of essential commodities like food and raw materials is in a vulnerable position during a war. During a war, international trade is adversely affected. It becomes difficult for these countries to get the supply of these essential commodities. So, the demerit is that during wars, the countries which are importing the essential commodities may face an adverse situation. They face some difficulty in getting the supply of these essential commodities, thus making the situation worse. So, vulnerable position during wars. The second point is economic instability. International trade is a source of economic instability. Whenever an unstable position occurs in any one of the economies, it will get transmitted to all the trading economies. So there is a possibility of booms and depression present in one country being transmitted to other countries of the world through trade. You may be familiar with the term trade cycles. These are the fluctuations that take place in the economic activities of nations. It can be production, it can be exchange, it can be consumption, or anything like that. So always all the economies are prone to trade cycles. There are 4 phases in the trade cycle. Boom, this is the peak phase, followed by recession, depression, and recovery. So boom phase is the peak phase where all the economic activities will be at the peak level. Depression is the worst phase where all the activities will be in the downfall. So all these phases occur in all economies. The thing is that international trade provides a platform for these trade cycles to get transmitted to other economies. So there is a possibility for these phases which are present in one country being transmitted to other countries of the world. Third point, economic dependence. The underdeveloped countries have to depend upon the developed countries for their economic development. So trade may bring about a sort of dependence. The underdeveloped countries may have to depend on developed economies as they are importing many of the commodities from developed countries. So it will naturally bring about an economic dependence. Fourth point is exploitation. The economic dependence may pave the way for exploitation. There is a possibility of advanced nations exploiting the underdeveloped countries as they are able to reap the benefits from international trade. So in international trade, the developed countries may be exporting more goods and services. The developing countries will always be on the receiver side. They will be importing the bulk of commodities. So that will naturally better the advanced economies. So they will get the favorable side of international trade. They will get benefited. The other party is on the receiver side. So there is a possibility of these advanced nations exploiting the underdeveloped countries. Also, a country having monopoly of some essential commodity for which there is no close substitute can easily exploit others. If a particular country is the sole provider or sole supplier of a particular good, then they can easily exploit the other countries which are importing that particular commodity. For example, the OPEC countries, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, they are able to charge high price for petroleum products due to their near monopoly position. They are the sole suppliers of a particular commodity for which there is no close substitute. So they can charge a higher price for that good. They can exploit the consumer countries. So that is the case of exploitation. Next point is the infant industry argument of dislodging of domestic industries. This is a very important argument against international trade. International trade has an adverse effect on the development of home industries or domestic industries. It poses a threat to the survival of infant industries. Due to foreign competition and unrestricted imports, the infant industries in the country may collapse. So, infant industry argument says that cheaper goods imported from other countries may adversely affect the domestic industries producing similar goods. We may be importing some particular commodity from other economies, and that substitute of that same commodity may be producing in the home country also. But when we import, we are getting the commodity at a cheaper price. So the cheaper goods may adversely affect domestic industries producing similar goods. So what happens? These industries may be driven out of market. Domestically produced goods may be of high price, but the same commodity can be availed at a cheaper price through import. Naturally, people will be demanding the cheaper imported goods. The domestically produced goods may not find market. So these industries in course of time may be driven out of market, resulting in dislocation and unemployment of resources. So this is the famous infant industry argument, an argument against international trade. Next point is overutilization of natural resources. Excessive export may exhaust the natural resources of a country in a short span of time. That can lead to economic downfall of that country in the long run. If a country is exporting excessively, then it can lead to the exhaustion of natural resources, and as a result of which, in the long run, they will be facing scarcity of natural resources. So excessive export can lead to overutilization of natural resources and thereby exhaustion of natural resources. Next point, lopsided development. International trade generally leads to specialization in the production of a few commodities. Consequently, only a few economic activities develop. This leads to lopsided development of the economy. When a country engages in international trade, they will be concentrating on some of the commodities. So a few sectors will be getting the attention, as a result of which the development will be lopsided. focusing only on some sectors, the other sectors getting ignored, and that is the lopsided development aspect. Another point, political interference and conflict. International trade becomes an instrument of political interference in the hands of developed countries. Advanced countries may interfere in the economic policies of the poor economies. In course of time, it may lead to political conflict. Another point is the import of harmful goods. Another disadvantage of international trade is that sometimes the developed countries export harmful products to other countries, particularly developing countries. This may lead to damage to the environment of importing country. This is an unhealthy practice. There is a possibility for this type of import also. Next point is widening trade gap. So trade gap is the difference between import and export. For the trade gap to be favorable to a nation, either import should be equal to export or export should be greater than import. These two are favorable trade gaps. But the thing is that international trade will bring about an unequal distribution of gains. Developed countries may get the whole advantage of international trade as they are the exporters. They are exporting bulk of commodities and their import is less. But when you take the case of developing economies, they are importing a lot of commodities and services while their export is less. So when you take the case of developed economies, they are having a favorable trade balance. Their export is greater than import. But in the case of developing economies, their import is greater than export and they are having an unfavorable trade balance. So this widening trade gap is one of the demerits of international trade. Next point is the shortage of goods in domestic market. Some economies may resort to the export of essential commodities required domestically and are in short supply. As a result, scarcity will be felt in the domestic market, leading to inflation. So if you are concentrating more on exporting more essential commodities which are required in the domestic market. In the domestic market, we are having ample demand for a particular product, but that economy is excessively exporting that commodity to other economies to earn foreign exchange. So the domestic market will feel scarcity. Scarcity of that good will be felt in the domestic market. It may lead to inflation. The last point is import of non-essential goods. Another adverse impact of international trade is that it can affect the consumption habits of a country. People are tempted to import non-essential commodities because of their easy availability, even though the commodities are non-essential commodities. Even though the commodities are non-essential, a particular economy may resort to import that commodity just because of its easy availability. This in turn will adversely affect the trade balance of the economy by magnifying the import. So that is another demerit of international trade. You can add more points onto these. prepare a good essay on the merits and demerits of international trade by incorporating more points by referring other textbooks. This is a sure question for university exam, either for essay part or for short question. So do prepare an essay on the topic merits and demerits of international trade. You can add more points. Okay, thank you.